the general discussion is the effect of the makif in the subsequent levels. We call it pnimi. Pnimi is, as I explained, the reason it's called pnimi because it is contained in a container. But the principle of it is a functional aspect, a distinct aspect, a distinct element that's part of a creation, part of the world. A human being's ability to walk is a koich pnimi. Although, clearly, it is directed, motivated by higher aspects in the human being. We said yesterday, a human being does not walk with his feet exclusively. That would be a robotic walk. Without going any further into this, as we already discussed. That quality, that there is an overall significance to a simple action. The action has a motivator factor, and it is executed, fulfilled in a very meaningful manner. And when one is fulfilling this simple action, he is not involved in the action. He's involved in something much superior to the action itself. This is the makif reflected in the pnimi, in the functional level. Now we're coming to, so to speak, even a deeper aspect in this makif principle. Another aspect that you may understand. Inyan, the principle of ha'oras bechinas ak, of the ha'ora. The ha'ora means the effect, illumination of the ak element, of the act aspect. Shebekol echad ve'echad miYisrael. The ha'ora of act that is effective and is recognizable in every individual. Shehu inyan, the inyan that we want to expose the ha'ora of ak is in the following manner. It is in the hagdomas nasa lenishma, of the phenomenon that a yid has that kind of a consciousness, that kind of a sense of nasa preceding, coming from nishu. Nasa means I shall do. Nishu means I shall listen and learn and understand and know. Clearly, the normal process is, first there is a nishma, first there is a statement as to what needs to be done, and then you contemplate and say, okay, I'll follow through what I was told to do. Excuse me, what am I talking about? This is the normal process. Where the entity that executes or follows through on the command has its own self-orientation. And when he gets a command, a directive, There's a decision process. First, he has to understand and know what is requested of him. Then he judges in himself how he can relate to that and how he can follow through on the request. And then comes the nas and comes the action. He be saying that there is a ha'ora of ak in every yid, which effectuates a completely different scenario, different sequence of events. That in a yid there is the name of hagdoma, that nasa comes before the nishma. Clearly, how can you do when you don't have a directive as to what to do? So what is the significance of this nasa, kodim l'nishma? Kedisha b'gemishnah, as it says in the Mishnah in Brachos. The Mishnah in Brachos says like this: Lama kodmo shma libhoyim shemeya. Why is shma? Shma is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad in the Torah first written before hoyim shemeya. Everybody's familiar with this pashas. So the Gemara says, "Big day is that why is Shema before hoyim shemeya? Big day saw that in order sheikabel olav emach hashemayim tchila, that a yid should take upon himself, accept the emach hashemayim, the yoke of heaven, of the kingdom of heaven first. The hakach ikabel olavim mitzvahs. But afterwards, he will accept the oil mitzvahs, the yoke of mitzvahs." In other words, the Mishnah says it like this. The person says, "Im shomei tishmo mitzvahs." If you obey my mitzvahs, you will get the following reward. And if you don't obey Chas v'Sholom, then you have the following consequence. This seems to be a self-standing statement. If one is explained, told, I read, that if you do this, this is the consequence. If you do this, this is the consequence. What other motivator does one in the world that a person need? If he's told, if you do this, you're going to get this reward. If you do this, you're going to get this punishment. That is sufficient motivation to follow through on these commands. But you say, no, there has to be something before that, which is called Kabbalah's Oil Machashamayim, accepting the yoke of heaven. Although that ultimately this acceptance of the yoke of heaven is expressed, comes into full focus when you get mitzvahs what to do, when you do follow through on the commands. But you're saying, following through on commands directly, without this acceptance of the yoke of heaven, something is missing. This is not the real thing. Because the Hoyim Shomeya, the Torah is meant for Eden, to give Eden directives as to how they should live, how they should act in the world. So primarily this is Hoyim Shomei Tishma Mitzvah. This is where the whole principle should begin. I took you out of Mitzrayim, and I'm giving you the following commands which I want you to follow through. If you obey the commands, you'll get rewarded. This is basically the principle of this whole relationship. Yet we see in the Torah that before the mitzvahs are emphasized, there's another emphasis of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What's the significance of that per se? Since that we are human being in the world, action is what is recognizable. If you're in the world by action manner. Thought and everything else is in order to facilitate the action. But what brings you totally into the world, it is the action. So if the Torah, and since the Torah, is intended to give us a directive of how to live in the world, thus, the first introduction should be, here are the mitzvahs that I want you to do. And if you do them, you get rewarded. And yet, the first introduction in the Torah as to the relationship between God and the Eden is not in terms of the mitzvahs that He gives us to do. It is Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And the Gemara says that this is very much intentional. There's a profound reason for that. So there will be Makabel Oil Machashmayim Tchila. But before you come to do mitzvahs, you should have in Machashmayim. This is the correct presentation of this relationship. And we want to understand, if ultimately it manifests itself at the action level of doing the mitzvahs, because that's where the human being is. What is so significant in this Kabbalah Yom HaShemayim? Before we even start, we know who is the boss. He's the creator. And he can say anything. And in the Poem Shemaya, he already declares it. If you will do this, you get rewarded. If you do this, it happens. So that primary fundamental relationship is clearly described even in Poem Shemaya. What then is the significance? And it seems to be of tremendous significance that we put first of Kabbalah's Oil Malchus Shemayim. What if one does not have Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim? Is he then free to avoid from obeying commands? No way. As it says, if you will listen to the mitzvahs, you will be rewarded, and if you don't, Yishom lachem v'niftal v'avchem, then abatem heir al watatei. So in terms of the human being, of the being in the world, what is so significant in Shema, to the extent that this is put first in the Torah and presented first to the Yid. Since that ultimately, at the risk of being repetitive, but I just want to make clear, since that ultimately, that too will be translated and reflected in mitzvahs. So why we need that? We can start from mitzvahs right away. So the Rebbe explains. V'yodua, in the middle of the third line. Yodua, it is known. V'kapol l'soyo machashomayim. That this principle of accepting the yoke of heaven, again, as I've said before, we need to accept the yoke of heaven. Heaven is your boss. Whether you accept it or you don't accept it. Can you avoid obeying the command? In no way. So when it's Kabbalah Shemach Hu Inyan, that actually it talks about something completely different. It's a completely different principle than what meets the eye. Which is Habitul, the self-nullification, le'ein soif, to the ein soif, bal horotzoy. Not the command as it is presented to me. I obey whatever I'm told to do because you're the boss. There's a much more profound aspect in this. Normally, if you have, so to speak, the boss, and then there is the one who obeys the command. When the boss expresses a command, his employee or his underling will obey the command because it was given to him. My boss gave me this command to do this. So there are two things. There's the boss, and then there's a servant who has gotten a command from the boss, and he follows through on the command because he was given that command. The servant who accepts his command obeys the command because that command was given to him, directed at him. And here is what we have to focus in and try to understand. He obeys the command because it was given to him, not because this is the command of the will of the commander. Surely it was given to him as a command. He knows that this is the will of the command. Now, a will, a command, is something that can be expressed and put into a clear statement, presented and given over to the servant. Subsequently, the servant goes on and does it because he has this command. The servant knows one thing. If he is commanded to do something, he better follow through on it. The servant is involved in fulfilling his duties. Rather than the wishes of the commander. The wishes of the commander, as far as he's concerned, and at the point where the commander expressed it, he takes that expressed command and he follows through on it. The wish of the commander, as it is part of the commander himself, prior to having been expressed and given as a command, he has no relationship to that. He couldn't care less, really. He is concerned about fulfilling his duty at his level. And his duty at his level is that whatever he is told to do, he does. But now we're being introduced to a completely much deeper phenomenon, deeper aspect in this whole scenario. This is called, the Rebbe says in the Shema, Hakdomas, Eimach HaShemayim, is Habitul le'Ein Sof Baal Horotz, the beetle to the Ein Sof Baal Horotz, the source of the Rotz. Let's start the next line, just a few words, and you will see a phenomenal statement. This beetle to the Ein Sof Baal Horotz means, is reflected in the recipient as follows. Lirtzos, so that he should want Kol ma shehu retzeni yisborech, everything that is Hashem's will, B'kiyum mitzvos and fulfilling the mitzvos. Ultimately, it translates in Kiyum mitzvos, because that is what this created entity is able to do, has a shaychus to fulfilling the mitzvahs in the world. In fulfilling the mitzvahs, we have to try and identify two distinct levels, aspects. At our level, it is a mitzvah, a command, something that makes sense to be acted on and done in the world. We can identify it in the world and our world, and we know what to do. We do it because it fits into our world. The whole idea of action fits into our world. And if we are given a command to do something, we can readily relate to that command. That command says, do this and this. This is the world in which we are, world of action. So we follow through on this command. We do it because the command has been described in terms of an action. Action we can readily accept and relate to. This is the world we live in. Then there is something that precedes that. Kabbalah mitzvahs precedes Kabbalah mitzvahs. This is called Kabbalah Mach HaShamayim. Kabbalah Mach HaShamayim, the Rebbe says, means the following. I'd like that we should, I'm going to repeat the words and we should focus in. These are very, very significant, powerful words. Lirtzos. He is dedicated, is given over lirtzos to want, not to fulfill an act, but to want Kol ma shehu retzeni yisborech, everything that is Hashem's will, B'kiyum mitzvos and fulfilling the mitzvos. I want to do the mitzvahs. Not because it reflects it identifies my presence in the world. It gives me a functional presence. However the effect is on me. No. I want that which Hashem wants. How does one get this type of insight, this kind of relationship? This is my boss and this is me. I'm all ready to obey everything he says. But it's his statement. We remain two separate entities. He's in a totally different realm than I am. Kabbalah Malchus Shamayim raises us up to a completely different level. We're no longer underlings, men of the world. We are his subjects, not subject in terms of obedience. We are his creations. We are his inventions. Our presence in the world is identified by the value that he attributes to us, not how we find ourselves in our experience. He has a will in us being in the world. That will identifies us. We want that which we want because this is his will, not because it is his command. This is his will. This is called the Bitul Le'ein Sof Ba'al Harotz. We are completely embraced in the Ein Sof. So that we are aware of only one thing, of the Ein Sof himself, of the Ba'al Harotz. Ba'al Harotz means the source of the will, the inventor of this will. Not for any reason that we can translate at our level, at his level. This is called Kabbalah. This is identified in these words. Kabbalah say Malchus Shamayim. Accepting the other Malchus Shamayim. And we say Kabbalah say Malchus Shamayim prior to what you do. No, but Kabbalah say Malchus Shamayim is not in order to fulfill the commands that he will give me. Kabbalah Shemayim is in order that his will and my will are one and the same thing. I want that which he wants.
I want what he wants. But it's really before any revelation of what he wants. In terms of commandments.
Correct.
So.
Correct, absolutely correct. That's what we say. That's why Shema Yisrael. Kabbalah say Malchus Shamayim. I want that which he wants, not because I know what he wants. Not because I agree with what he wants. Not because I respect his wants, what he wants. But because this is what he wants. That's why
An emphasis is not on any defined element that he wants, but rather I'm giving over to whatever would arise as his desire.
Correct, but there's another notch to it, and this is very difficult to express and very difficult to focus on the concept. The reason I have this Kabbalah Sir Machar Shamayim, the reason I'm dedicated to what he wants is because I'm dedicated to him. The Baal Horotz. Baal Horotz. Now, how do I relate to Baal Horotz? He is my creator. He is my melech, whatever it is. And I'm only an underling. How do I relate to the Baal Horotz? If you think into it for a moment, you can start talking about it. If you don't think about it, then the words are going to be superfluous. In order that there should be some possibility of the beetle to the Baal Horotz, I'd like to point out something in the words of the Maimon. At the end of the third line, when he says, Kabbalah Sir Machar Shamayim Ho'in ha-beetle me'ein sof Baal Horotz. Where is the word Ein Sof come in here? Baal Horotz. How is the word Ein Sof fit into this discussion? You dedicate it to him. What is the Ein Sof Baal Horotz? Why does the Ein Sof come into it? How does that help us to understand it? Again, half a second to think. Otherwise, our words are going to be superfluous. Ein Sof Baal Horotz means Ein Sof, the total infinity, total reality. There is no separate entities. There's nothing outside of that. This is how it's possible, Baal Horotz. Kabbalah Sir Machar Shamayim Ho'inyan is the principle of ha-beetle, not the Baal Horotz, but Ein Sof Baal Horotz. Thus, since Bottle Ein Sof Baal Horotz, Lirtzo is thus, he wants kol mashu it's in his body. Everything that is Hashem's will. Because this is what encompasses my whole mitzvahs. Ein Sof Baal Horotz is what encompasses my whole mitzvahs.
Usually, or often, we stress the qualitative difference between the Boira and the Bria.
What?
The qualitative difference, the massive gap between the creator and the created.
Absolutely. But in terms of beetle, this is, it completely engulfs and embraces the whole Bria.
In terms of bittul, meaning by virtue of bittul, the gap is closed. What?
No, it's not a gap. It's nothing to close.
By
There's
virtue,
no separate entity.
yeah, by virtue of bittul, there is no distinction.
So we try to, the Rebbe puts in words here and there, and he wants that we should focus in understanding what he's doing. But then, Mitzvah Shem, this requires a tremendous insight in ourselves. The word beetle needs to be reflected individually. Beetle is not recognition. Little means self-knowledge. Okay, and now I'm bottled because I'm being asked to evacuate.